Thanks, Dina. Hey, Alex. I'm home from Canada. I actually live in Waterloo, Ontario. Thanks for being here. My question is, there's a lot of these new technologies that are coming in. It's like quantum biometrics that are expected to come in full force in the upcoming decade. Um, cy- is cybersecurity is an intersection between these technologies and cybersecurity something that's being looked at? And do you think there needs to be more attention towards that?
So I think you're mostly, I'm sorry, you broke up a lot, but you're mostly talking about biometrics and security, right? The intersection there?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Okay. So I think biometrics are a great opportunity for us to make systems to be more usably secure, right? We have this real problem in the security world that we set out a very thin tightrope that our users have to walk across. And if they fall off the tightrope and there's no net, we blame them, right? We're like, oh, you made a mistake. Well, you're not our problem anymore, right? That this is what it's like for like to make people use usernames and extremely long passwords, for example. Is the username password paradigm comes out of the 1970s timeshare architectures. It is not an appropriate way to authenticate when you have a pocket supercomputer that's connected up to an entire world of information. And so biometrics, I think, is a great way to make devices themselves more usable. Now, that is if you keep the biometrics on the device, right? So this thing can recognize my face, but does so with information that's stored on the device and never leaves it. And then there's a protocol called WebAuthn, also known as FIDO 2.0, that allows the phone to use biometrics locally and then tell other sites, this is Alex, right? I recognized his face without actually sending my face, right? And so I think that's a fantastic use of biometrics. What's much scarier is in the mass use of biometrics, where people are building these databases of people's faces, their gaits, how they walk. Like this is a really interesting thing people have done is like by looking at how somebody walks, you can try to fingerprint them. And so that's much more effective if you have like a low resolution camera that's looking at thousands of people and you can't see their individual faces, but you can see how they're walking, that you might be able to fingerprint them. That kind of stuff is incredibly scary. And I think we have to be, the problem in the United States is we really don't have any, very little in the way of laws that control that. There's a biometric privacy law in Illinois, but we don't have a federal statute for that. And I think that that's actually a really scary direction to go. There's a company called Clearview AI, which famously has gathered up photos and names of people from all over the web, from Facebook, from Instagram, by scraping all of this stuff, and is doing facial recognition. And it's very, very scary. And we need laws both to prevent that kind of collection of biometric data without people's permission, but then also prevent mostly law enforcement from using it, right? Like it's one thing if there's a creepy use of AI to sell you something, that's bad. It's much, much worse if you're using this in a law enforcement context where people's freedoms can be taken away, especially because it turns out facial recognition is not that good. And we have lots of examples of facial recognition catching the wrong people, and there's a bunch of racial biases in that and such. And so I think we got to be like super careful to have laws around this. It's also a big security issue. If somebody breaks into Clearview and they walk away with a couple petabytes of photos, it doesn't matter if legally Clearview gets restricted. Somebody's going to be sitting on all that data.